My mother secretly told me not to celebrate my daughter's third birthday while we were at the store buying cake ingredients, whispering that my sister was pregnant and didn't want the party to overshadow her announcement on Sunday. I stood there in the baking aisle of Target, holding a box of vanilla cake mix, watching my mother's lips move with words that made absolutely no sense. Maya's birthday was Sunday. The invitations had gone out 3 weeks ago. 20 children were coming. The bounce house was already paid for. Mom, what are you talking about? I set the cake mix back on the shelf carefully, buying myself a second to process what I'd just heard. Maya's party is in 2 days. Everything's arranged. Patricia glanced around nervously, then pulled me toward the end of the aisle, away from other shoppers. Jennifer found out she's pregnant 2 weeks ago. She's been so emotional about it, Rebecca. You know how she's struggled. Her voice dropped even lower. She wants to announce it at Sunday dinner, and she's worried that if Maya has her big party, it'll steal her thunder. Can't you just postpone it? Have a small family thing instead? The fluorescent lights hummed above us. Somewhere in the store, a child was crying. I thought about Maya's face that morning when she'd counted down 2 more sleeps until her party. I thought about the Moana-themed decorations in my garage, the goodie bags I'd spent hours assembling, the deposit I'd put down on the bounce house rental. Jennifer knew about this party, I said slowly. She RSVP'd yes 3 weeks ago. I know, honey, but she didn't know she was pregnant then. Mom touched my arm, her expression pleading. She's your sister. This is such a special moment for her. You can have Maya's party next weekend instead. The kids won't know the difference. Something cold settled in my chest. Maya will know the difference, Mom. It's her actual birthday. She's 3. Patricia's voice held a hint of impatience now. She won't remember. But Jennifer will remember if her pregnancy announcement gets overshadowed by a children's birthday party. Please, Rebecca. For me, for family. I looked at my mother. Really looked at her. The woman who had thrown me elaborate birthday parties as a child, who had made sure every milestone was celebrated, who had, apparently, decided that my daughter's 3rd birthday was less important than my sister's desire for undivided attention at a family dinner. I need to think about it, I said, turning back toward the shelves. I picked up the cake mix again, then added chocolate frosting to my cart. I'll let you know, Rebecca. Mom's tone shifted to that particular blend of guilt and manipulation I knew so well. Jennifer's been through so much. The miscarriage last year, the struggles with conceiving. This pregnancy is a miracle. Surely you can be flexible for one weekend. I pushed my cart forward without answering. My phone buzzed in my pocket, probably David wondering where I was. We'd only stopped for cake supplies, but I'd been gone almost an hour because Mom had insisted on coming along, saying she wanted to help. Now I understood why. As we walked toward checkout, Mom kept talking, her voice taking on that wheedling quality that meant she wouldn't let this go. I already told Jennifer you'd understand. She's so relieved. She was worried you'd be upset, but I said my Rebecca always puts family first. I stopped walking. You already told her I agreed to cancel? Well, postpone, not cancel. Mom waved her hand dismissively. It's essentially the same thing. Jennifer's been texting me all morning so anxious about it. I wanted to put her mind at ease. The cold feeling in my chest spread outward. This wasn't a request. This was a done deal, orchestrated behind my back, presented as a fait accompli. My mother had promised my sister that Maya's birthday party would be eliminated as a competing event before even asking me. I haven't agreed to anything, I said clearly. Patricia's face tightened. Don't be selfish about this, Rebecca. You have everything already. A beautiful home, a good husband, a healthy child. Jennifer has struggled. Can't you let her have this one thing? The word selfish hung in the air between us. I'd been called selfish by my mother exactly 3 times in my life, always when I'd failed to prioritize Jennifer's wants over my own needs. The first time, I was 12 and refused to give Jennifer my new bike because she'd wrecked hers doing tricks. The second time, I was 19 and wouldn't co-sign a car loan for her. The third time was 2 years ago when I'd declined to babysit Jennifer's friends' children so Jennifer could go to a concert. Now this, the 4th time, because I wasn't willing to cancel my daughter's birthday party. I completed my purchase in silence, Mom hovering anxiously, still talking about Jennifer's hormones and emotions and how family needed to stick together. In the parking lot, she tried one more time. Just think about it, okay? Really think about what's more important. One birthday party or your sister's happiness. I loaded the bags into my car. I'll call you tomorrow, Mom. Driving home, my hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I thought about Maya's excited chatter that morning about her mermaid cake, about the friend from daycare who'd be attending his first birthday party ever, about the emails I'd have to send, the phone calls I'd have to make if I canceled. More than that, I thought about what this actually meant. My mother had decided that my 3-year-old daughter's birthday was less important than creating the perfect moment for Jennifer's announcement. Not just less important, but disposable, erasable, something that could be pushed aside without consequence because Maya was too young to really understand or remember, but I would remember. Maya would eventually understand. And Jennifer would learn that demanding the erasure of my daughter's celebration was acceptable behavior. David was in the kitchen when I got home, Maya at the table with her coloring books. Everything okay? He asked, reading my expression. You were gone a while. I set the grocery bags down. We need to talk after Maya goes to bed. That evening, after tucking Maya in with promises of her birthday party and 2 more sleeps, I told David everything. He listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each sentence. "So your mother wants you to cancel Maya's party," he said flatly. "The party we've spent 3 weeks planning and over $600 organizing. Because Jennifer wants to announce her pregnancy without competition." "Essentially, yes. And she already told Jennifer you agreed." "Yes." David leaned back in his chair. "What are you going to do?" I thought about my mother's words, about the word selfish, about the assumption that Maya's birthday was negotiable, about the fact that Jennifer had known about this party for 3 weeks and waited until 2 days before to manufacture this crisis. "I'm going to do exactly what I planned," I said. "Maya's party is happening on Sunday, as scheduled. Your mom's going to be pissed." "Yes." "Jennifer's going to be pissed." "Yes." "Are you ready for that?" I thought about Maya's face when she counted down her birthday sleeps. I thought about teaching my daughter that her celebrations, her milestones, her joy was less important than managing other people's feelings. "I'm ready," I said, "but I'm also going to document everything. Every text, every call, every manipulation attempt. Because this isn't really about a birthday party, David. This is about my family treating my daughter as less important than Jennifer's wants. And I'm done with that pattern." What I didn't say, what I was only beginning to understand, was that this moment was revealing something much larger. My mother and sister saw Maya, saw me, saw my entire life as supporting characters in Jennifer's story, and they expected me to accept that role without question. They were about to learn otherwise. That night, before bed, I started a new folder on my phone. I titled it Documentation, and added screenshots of the party invitations I'd sent 3 weeks ago, including Jennifer's RSVP confirmation. I saved the receipt from the bounce house deposit. I began a detailed timeline of every conversation. I didn't know yet exactly what I'd need this information for. I just knew, with absolute certainty, that I would need it. Sunday was coming, and so was everything that would follow. Saturday morning, my phone started buzzing before 7. Text messages from my mother, each one more insistent than the last. "Rebecca, we need to talk about tomorrow. Jennifer is very upset. She heard you're still planning the party. Call me immediately. This is getting out of hand." I screenshotted each message and added them to my documentation folder. David was already up, assembling the dessert table in our backyard. Maya was still sleeping, blissfully unaware of the family drama brewing around her birthday. By 9, Mom had called 4 times. I let them all go to voicemail, listening to each one carefully before saving them. Her tone escalated from pleading to irritated to outright angry. The final message was barely controlled fury. "Rebecca Ann Turner, you are being incredibly selfish. Your sister is pregnant. This is one of the most important moments of her life, and you're deliberately sabotaging it with this ridiculous party. I raised you better than this. Call me back, or I'm coming over there." David heard that last voicemail over my shoulder. She actually said ridiculous party. About our daughter's birthday. She did. I saved the voicemail to 3 different locations, including cloud storage. "You're building a case," he observed. "I'm protecting my family." I poured coffee, my hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "There's a pattern here I've been ignoring for years. I'm done ignoring it." At 10:30, Jennifer called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. I also hit the record button on my phone's voice memo app. "Rebecca," her voice was thick with tears. "How could you do this to me?" "Do what, exactly?" "You know what? Mom told me you agreed to postpone Maya's party. She said you understood how important my announcement was. And now I find out you're still having it? On the same day I'm supposed to tell the family about my pregnancy?" I kept my voice calm. "Jennifer, your announcement is at dinner. Maya's party is from 1 to 4 in the afternoon. They're not even at the same time. But people will be tired from the party. They won't be excited about my news. They'll still be thinking about cake and bounce houses and whatever." Her voice rose to a pitch I recognized from childhood tantrums. "Why can't you just do this one thing for me after everything I've been through? Your miscarriage was terrible, and I'm sorry you went through that. But that doesn't mean Maya's birthday gets canceled. It's not canceled, it's postponed. God, Rebecca, why are you being such a bitch about this?" I felt David tense beside me, but I kept my voice level. "I sent invitations 3 weeks ago. You RSVP'd yes. You knew this party was happening. I didn't know I'd be pregnant then. Things change. Family is supposed to be flexible. You're right, things change. So instead of announcing your pregnancy at Sunday dinner, maybe announce it next weekend. That way there's no conflict." The silence on the other end was deafening. When Jennifer spoke again, her voice had gone cold. "Mom was right about you. You've always thought you were better than me. Better house, better husband, better life. And now you can't even let me have one special moment without making it about you. This isn't about me, Jennifer. It's about Maya. Maya's 3. She won't even remember this birthday. But I'll remember how my own sister couldn't be bothered to support me during my pregnancy. I'll remember that for the rest of my life." She hung up. I stopped the recording and saved it immediately. David looked at me with something between admiration and concern. That was brutal. It's about to get worse. I showed him my phone, which now had 6 more text messages from my mother. "She's on her way over here. Should I be here for this?" "Absolutely." Patricia arrived 15 minutes later, letting herself in through the garage with the key I'd given her for emergencies. She found us in the kitchen, calmly continuing party preparations. Maya was now awake, happily decorating paper crowns at the table. "We need to talk," Mom announced, barely glancing at her granddaughter. "Privately." "Anything you need to say can be said here," I replied, continuing to fill goodie bags. Mom's mouth tightened. She glanced at Maya, then back at me. "Fine. You've upset your sister terribly. She's at my house right now crying. Actually crying, Rebecca. You know that's not good for the baby. The baby that's barely 6 weeks along, if she's even pregnant at all." My mother's face went pale, then red. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means I'd like to see proof before I rearrange my daughter's life around Jennifer's announcement." "You want proof? You want your sister to show you a pregnancy test? What is wrong with you?" I set down the goodie bag I was holding and turned to face her fully. "What's wrong with me is that I've spent 29 years watching Jennifer get whatever she wants by claiming crisis, emergency, or trauma. And I've spent 29 years being told I'm selfish when I don't immediately sacrifice my plans for hers. That is not what this is about, isn't it? When I was 12, I was selfish for not giving her my bike. When I was 19, I was selfish for not co-signing her car loan. 2 years ago, I was selfish for not babysitting. Now I'm selfish for not canceling my daughter's birthday party. When does it end, Mom? When am I allowed to prioritize my own family without being called selfish? Patricia's hands were shaking. "Your sister has struggled. She hasn't had the advantages you've had. I've tried to balance things to make sure she doesn't feel less than. By making my daughter feel less than? Don't be dramatic. Maya is 3 years old. She doesn't understand family dynamics or adult feelings. Jennifer is 26 and pregnant and vulnerable. Why can't you see the difference?" David finally spoke up, his voice quiet but firm. "Patricia, with all due respect, we sent invitations 3 weeks ago. We've spent over $600 on this party. 20 children are coming. We're not canceling because Jennifer decided 48 hours before the event that she wants that day for her announcement." Mom turned on him. "This is between me and my daughter. Maya is your granddaughter," David said, "and this party is happening. We're done discussing it." Patricia grabbed her purse, her face twisted with anger. "Fine, then don't expect me to come, and don't expect Jennifer. We'll have our own family gathering, with people who actually care about each other." She stormed out. Maya looked up from her crown decorating, confused. "Is Grandma mad?" "Grandma's having a tough day, sweetie," I said, kneeling beside her. "But your party is still happening tomorrow. Are you excited?" "So excited!" Maya bounced in her seat. 2 more sleeps became 1 more sleep. After she went back to her coloring, David pulled me aside. "Are you okay?" "I'm furious," I admitted, "but I'm also clear-headed. This needed to happen. I needed to see exactly how little Maya matters to them when she's inconvenient to Jennifer. What do you think happens tomorrow?" "I think my mother and sister don't show up. I think they spend the day together, probably posting about it on social media to make sure I see. I think this is their attempt to punish me. I was wrong about one thing. It was worse than I imagined. That evening, my phone exploded with messages from extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, all saying they were so sorry, but they wouldn't be able to make Maya's party after all. Various excuses, sudden illness, car trouble, prior commitments they'd forgotten about. Every single one of them had confirmed attendance weeks ago. Every single one was now canceling within 18 hours of the event. I showed David the messages, my stomach churning. Mom called them all. She's getting them to boycott. Can she actually do that? Apparently. I scrolled through message after message. Look at this one from Aunt Carol. "I love you, honey, but I can't get in the middle of this situation with your sister. I hope you understand." And this from Uncle Mike. "Maybe it's better to postpone until things calm down." David's jaw clenched. So they're all choosing sides, and they're all choosing Jennifer. Of course they are. That's what always happens. Jennifer's the one who needs support, who needs protection, who needs everyone to bend their lives around her feelings. I felt tears prick my eyes, but I blinked them back. Maya's going to have 8 kids at her party instead of 20. Because my mother orchestrated a family boycott of a 3-year-old's birthday. Then we make it the best damn party those 8 kids have ever seen, David said firmly. And we document every single cancellation message. Because this isn't just family drama anymore, Rebecca. This is something else entirely. He was right. I saved every message, every excuse, every cancellation. I noted the timing of each one, how they all came within a 2-hour window. I noted the similarities in phrasing. Can't get in the middle of this. Better to postpone. Hope you understand. This wasn't coincidence. This was coordination. My mother had weaponized the entire family against my 3-year-old daughter's birthday party, and she'd done it in less than 6 hours. That night, lying in bed, unable to sleep, I finally understood what I was dealing with. This wasn't about a party or a pregnancy announcement. This was about power and control. This was about maintaining a family dynamic where Jennifer's wants superseded everyone else's needs, and anyone who challenged that dynamic would be punished. They'd chosen the wrong person to punish. They'd chosen the wrong child to use as a pawn. I pulled out my phone and started researching. If Jennifer was actually pregnant, there would be medical records, prenatal appointments, insurance claims, and if she wasn't, well, that would be even more interesting. My sister had lied about things before, small things usually, being sick to get out of work, having car trouble to avoid events, nothing I could ever prove, but patterns I'd noticed over the years. What if this pregnancy was just another lie, another manipulation? I opened a new document on my phone and started writing down every inconsistency I could remember. The timeline of when she supposedly found out versus when she decided to make this demand. The fact that she hadn't mentioned any symptoms, any morning sickness, any doctor's appointments. Maybe I was being paranoid, or maybe I was finally seeing clearly. Either way, Sunday was coming, and I was ready for whatever came next. Sunday morning dawned bright and clear. Perfect weather for a birthday party. Maya woke up singing, her joy so pure and uncomplicated that it made my chest ache. While David inflated balloons, I checked my phone one last time. 17 family members had canceled. My mother hadn't contacted me at all since storming out yesterday. Jennifer had blocked me on social media, though I could still see her posts through David's account. Her most recent post, from an hour ago, sometimes family shows their true colors. Grateful for the people who actually support me during important life moments. The comments were full of heart emojis and stay strong messages from relatives who'd canceled on Maya. I screenshotted it and added it to my documentation. By 12:30, everything was ready. The bounce house stood inflated in our backyard. The Moana decorations transformed our patio, and the mermaid cake sat in pride of place on the dessert table. 8 children arrived with their parents. Kids from Maya's daycare whose families didn't know my mother or sister, who had no stake in family politics. It was enough. Maya's face lit up with each arrival, and watching her bounce and play and laugh, I felt my resolve harden into something unbreakable. My daughter deserved celebration. She deserved family who showed up for her. If my blood relatives couldn't provide that, I'd build her a better family from people who actually cared. David's sister Michelle arrived with her 2 kids, taking in the modest gathering with knowing eyes. Your mom got to everyone, didn't she? Everyone, I confirmed. Patricia Turner, master manipulator. Michelle shook her head. I could tell you stories about what she pulled when David and I were growing up. She tried the same control tactics with our family until my mom finally shut it down. What did your mom do? Drew a hard boundary and stuck to it. Told Patricia she was welcome in our lives, but the manipulation had to stop. Your mom backed off because she realized she couldn't control the situation. Michelle squeezed my shoulder. You're doing the right thing, Rebecca. Maya will remember who showed up for her, even if she can't articulate it now. The party was beautiful. The kids played for 3 hours straight, and Maya's joy was infectious. When we sang happy birthday and she blew out her candles, her smile could have powered the entire neighborhood. David captured it all on video, including the moment when Maya hugged each of her friends goodbye and thanked them for coming to her special day. After the last guest left, after Maya went down for an exhausted nap, I finally looked at my phone. 23 messages, all from numbers I didn't recognize. I opened the first one and felt ice flood my veins. You should be ashamed of yourself, ruining your sister's pregnancy announcement. The second, family is supposed to come first. Your mother is heartbroken. Third, that poor girl pregnant and dealing with a selfish sister. Someone had posted my phone number somewhere, probably in a family group chat. Flying monkeys, David's sister had called them later. People who'd been fed one side of the story and turned into weapons. I blocked each number methodically, screenshotting first, but they kept coming. By evening, I'd received over 60 messages from strangers. Someone had also found my work email, my office voicemail. Even my dental practice's Facebook page had comments about what a terrible sister and daughter I was. This is harassment, David said, looking at my phone with growing anger. This is beyond family drama. This is a coordinated attack. He was right, and it had Patricia's fingerprints all over it. My mother, the woman who'd always prided herself on appearing perfect to the outside world, had intentionally destroyed my reputation among extended family and beyond, all because I wouldn't cancel my daughter's birthday party. Monday morning, I called in sick to work, not because of the emotional toll, though that was real enough, but because I needed time to execute the next phase. If my mother and sister wanted warfare, I'd give them warfare, but I'd do it intelligently. First, I contacted an attorney. Linda Michaels specialized in family law and harassment cases. When I laid out the situation, including the documentation I'd gathered, her eyes sharpened. You've been thorough, she observed, scrolling through the screenshots and voice recordings. This is good, very good. The phone number distribution alone could constitute harassment. The false statements designed to damage your reputation, that's potentially defamation. She looked up at me. What outcome are you looking for? I want this to stop. I want my daughter protected, and I want consequences for what they've done. Consequences how? I'd thought about this all night while blocking hateful messages. I want a formal cease and desist sent to both of them. I want documentation that can be used if they escalate, and I want to be ready to pursue a restraining order if necessary. That's quite aggressive for a family dispute. This stopped being a simple dispute when they sicked strangers on me and tried to destroy my professional reputation. I met her gaze steadily. My mother distributed my personal phone number to people who sent me death threats. One message told me I should die so Jennifer could have peace. That's not family drama, Ms. Michaels. That's something much darker. Linda nodded slowly. Give me 48 hours. I'll draft the cease and desist letters and prepare the preliminary documentation for a restraining order. In the meantime, document everything. Every message, every post, every contact. And don't respond to any of it. My second call was to a private investigator. Marcus Donovan came recommended by a colleague whose ex-husband had hidden assets during their divorce. I met him at a coffee shop, sliding my folder of documentation across the table. I need you to find out if my sister is actually pregnant, I said bluntly. He didn't even blink. What makes you think she's not? Timing inconsistencies, no mention of symptoms or doctor's appointments, a pattern of lying to get attention or manipulate situations, and the fact that she's willing to weaponize a pregnancy announcement against a 3-year-old's birthday party. Even if she's lying, medical records are private. I'm not asking you to hack into anything. I'm asking you to surveil her. See if she goes to prenatal appointments. See if she's actually acting like someone who's pregnant, or if this is another one of her performances. Marcus tapped his pen against his notepad. This could get expensive. I don't care. I need to know the truth. He named his rate. I paid the retainer without hesitation. If Jennifer was lying about being pregnant, that changed everything. It meant this entire situation, the party cancellation demand, the family boycott, the harassment campaign had been orchestrated around a complete fabrication. And if I could prove that, my mother and sister would face consequences they'd never anticipated. Tuesday afternoon, I received the first cease and desist letter via email. Linda had worked fast. The letter to Patricia was devastating in its clinical detail, listing each instance of harassment, each piece of evidence we had, each potential legal violation. It demanded immediate cessation of all contact, all posting about me on social media, and all distribution of my personal information. Failure to comply would result in legal action including, but not limited to, restraining orders and defamation suits. The letter to Jennifer was equally thorough, with the added detail that if her pregnancy claims were proven false, additional charges of fraud and intentional infliction of emotional distress would be pursued. We serve these via certified mail, Linda explained over the phone. They'll have to sign for them. That creates a paper trail. If they violate the terms after that, we have grounds for immediate legal action. When do they get them? Thursday at the latest. Wednesday, Marcus called with his first report. Your sister left her apartment this morning at 9. She went to a nail salon, then to Target, then met a friend for lunch at Olive Garden. No medical appointments, no pharmacy stops, nothing that would indicate prenatal care. One day doesn't prove anything. True, but I did notice something interesting. She was drinking what appeared to be a full caffeine iced coffee at lunch. Most pregnant women in their first trimester avoid caffeine or limit it significantly, and she took a photo of it for social media with the caption, "Much needed pick-me-up." I asked him to continue surveillance through the end of the week. Meanwhile, I returned to work, fielding curious questions from colleagues who'd seen the Facebook comments. I kept my answers brief and professional, refusing to be drawn into the drama publicly. Thursday afternoon, Patricia signed for her cease and desist letter at 2:15. Jennifer signed for hers at 4:30. By 5, my phone was ringing off the hook from family members demanding to know what was going on. I didn't answer any of them. At 6, Patricia showed up at my house. I watched through the window as she pounded on the door, her face contorted with rage. David had already called the police the moment she pulled into the driveway. She's violated the cease and desist within 2 hours of receiving it, Linda had warned. If she makes contact, call the police immediately. We need documentation. The officer arrived 8 minutes later, just as Patricia was screaming through the door about ungrateful daughters and legal threats. I showed him the cease and desist letter, explained the situation briefly, and provided recordings of her previous harassment. He went outside to speak with her. Through the window, I watched Patricia's face cycle through emotions: shock, fury, tears, then calculation. Whatever she told the officer made him shake his head and hand her a card before returning to my porch. "Ma'am, I've informed Mrs. Turner that any further contact with you constitutes harassment. She's been advised to leave immediately and not return. If she comes back, call us, and we'll arrest her for trespassing." After he left, I added his report number to my documentation folder. Patricia sat in her car across the street for 20 minutes before finally driving away. I photographed her car, time-stamped the photos, noted the duration of her presence. That evening, Jennifer posted on Facebook, "When lawyers get involved in family disputes, you know someone has lost their way. Praying for healing and forgiveness for those who have forgotten what family means." The comments were predictably supportive of her, condemning me as cold and legalistic. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded the post to Linda, who added it to our growing file of evidence. Friday morning, Marcus sent me photos. Jennifer at a bar Wednesday night, holding what appeared to be an alcoholic drink. Jennifer, smoking a cigarette outside her apartment Thursday morning. Jennifer, at a trampoline park Friday afternoon. jumping vigorously with friends. No pregnant woman 6 to 8 weeks along would be doing any of this, Marcus wrote in his email. The smoking alone would be a massive red flag. Most women quit immediately. The alcohol and high-impact activity just add to the evidence that she's either lying about being pregnant or she's engaging in extremely high-risk behavior. I stared at the photos, feeling a strange mix of vindication and disgust. My sister had manufactured a pregnancy to manipulate a 3-year-old's birthday party. She'd weaponized it to turn the entire family against me. She'd allowed, possibly encouraged, a harassment campaign that included death threats. All for what? Attention, control, some sick need to always be the center of the universe. Saturday morning, 1 week after Maya's party, I received a text from an unknown number. "This is Carol. Your mother is in the hospital. Heart attack. Thought you should know." My hands went cold. Despite everything, Patricia was still my mother. I called the hospital, confirmed she'd been admitted, and drove there with David. We found her in a private room, Jennifer at her bedside, both of them looking up as I entered. "How dare you show your face here?" Jennifer hissed. "After what you've done to her." "After what I've done." The words came out harder than I intended. "I sent a cease and desist letter because you two orchestrated a harassment campaign against me. That's not the same as causing a heart attack. The stress of you threatening to sue your own mother," Jennifer started, but a nurse interrupted. "Mrs. Turner needs rest and calm. If there's going to be conflict, I'll have to ask you all to leave." I turned to my mother, who looked smaller in the hospital bed, older and frailer than I'd ever seen her. "I'm sorry you're ill, Mom. I hope you recover fully, but I'm not backing down. What you and Jennifer did was wrong, and there will be consequences." Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "You're really going to do this? Destroy your family over a birthday party? You destroyed it the moment you decided Maya was disposable for Jennifer's convenience." I kept my voice level, aware of the nurse listening. "I'm just protecting my daughter from future damage." I left before Jennifer could respond, David following silently. In the car, he asked, "How are you holding up?" "I'm sad," I admitted. "Sad that it came to this. Sad that my mother orchestrated her own alienation from her granddaughter. Sad that Jennifer is apparently willing to fake a pregnancy for attention. But I'm not backing down. They made their choices. Now they live with the consequences." Marcus called that afternoon with the final piece of evidence I needed. He'd followed Jennifer to a coffee shop where she'd met with 2 friends. Using a directional microphone from his car, he'd recorded their conversation. In it, Jennifer explicitly discussed keeping up the pregnancy story until Mom and Rebecca make up, and laughed about how everyone fell for it so easily. She wasn't pregnant. She'd never been pregnant. The entire thing was a fabrication designed to manipulate the family dynamic. I listened to the recording 3 times, feeling something cold and final settle in my chest. This wasn't just family dysfunction. This was pathological, and it had been directed at my 3-year-old daughter. "What do you want to do with this?" Marcus asked. "I want you to provide an affidavit, professionally documented evidence that Jennifer admitted to faking the pregnancy. Then I want you to send me every photo, every recording, every piece of evidence you've gathered, because this ends now. Completely." Monday morning, I met with Linda again. She listened to the recording, reviewed Marcus's documentation, and sat back with an expression of grim satisfaction. "This changes everything," she said. "We're no longer looking at family drama or even harassment. We're looking at fraud, defamation, and conspiracy to harm. If you want to pursue this fully, I can have them both buried in legal problems for years. I want them to face real consequences," I said. "But more than that, I want them to publicly admit what they did. I want everyone who boycotted Maya's party, everyone who sent me hate messages, everyone who believed their lies, to know the truth." "That's risky. Public exposure could backfire. They made this public when they posted my phone number, when they destroyed my reputation online, when they turned family and strangers against me. I'm just leveling the playing field." Linda smiled slowly. "All right, then let's craft a strategy that gives you maximum impact with minimum legal risk." We spent 3 hours planning. By the time I left her office, I had a comprehensive plan that would expose every lie, every manipulation, every piece of evidence I'd gathered. It would be devastating. It would be permanent. And it would ensure that my mother and sister could never harm my daughter again. The countdown to consequences had begun, and this time, I was in control. The post went live Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. I'd crafted it carefully, working with Linda to ensure every word was legally defensible. It opened with a simple statement. "A week ago, my family boycotted my 3-year-old daughter's birthday party. Here's what actually happened." Then I laid it all out methodically. Screenshots of Jennifer's RSVP from 3 weeks before, the timeline of demands to cancel the party, voice recordings of my mother and sister's calls, the messages from family members canceling in coordination, the harassment campaign, including samples of the threatening messages I'd received. And then, the finale. Marcus's documentation proving Jennifer had faked her pregnancy. Photos of her smoking, drinking, and engaging in high-impact activities incompatible with first-trimester pregnancy. The recording of her admitting to friends that she'd made it up to manipulate the situation. "My sister fabricated a pregnancy to force the cancellation of my daughter's birthday party," I wrote. When I refused, my mother and sister orchestrated a family-wide boycott, then distributed my personal phone number to strangers who sent death threats. All of this was based on a complete lie. I'm posting this so everyone who participated knows the truth about what they supported. I tagged no one. I made no personal attacks beyond stating documented facts. I simply presented evidence and let people draw their own conclusions. Then I posted it simultaneously to Facebook, my neighborhood social media group, and a long email to every extended family member whose contact information I had. The response was immediate and explosive. Within 20 minutes, my phone started ringing. Aunt Carol, Uncle Mike, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I watched the comments roll in on my post, some defensive, some apologetic, most simply shocked. Aunt Carol, Rebecca, I had no idea. Jennifer told us you were being unreasonable about her pregnancy. I'm so sorry. Uncle Mike, this is absolutely unacceptable. Patricia, Jennifer, if you're reading this, you should be ashamed. Cousin Emma, I can't believe I fell for this. Maya, I'm so sorry I missed your party, sweetie. By noon, Jennifer's Facebook account had been deleted. Patricia had made hers private, but screenshots of Jennifer's previous posts, especially the one about family showing true colors, were being shared with my evidence attached. People who'd supported her publicly were now backtracking, apologizing, or deleting their own posts in embarrassment. My dental practice's Facebook page, which had been flooded with negative comments about me being a terrible sister, suddenly filled with new comments defending me and criticizing the practice for not standing by their employee. My office manager called, apologetic and supportive. Dr. Patterson saw your post, she said. She's mortified that the practice got pulled into this family drama. She wants you to know you have full support, and if anyone harasses you here again, we're pursuing legal action. By evening, the local news had picked up the story. Not from me, I hadn't contacted them, but someone had sent them my post and they'd verified the key facts independently. Jennifer's fake pregnancy had become a cautionary tale about social media manipulation and family dysfunction. Wednesday morning, I woke to find my post had been shared over 3,000 times. It had spread far beyond my immediate circle, becoming one of those viral, can you believe this stories. Parenting blogs were discussing it. Relationship forums were analyzing it. Someone had even made a TikTok breaking down the timeline of events. Jennifer's employer, the retail store where she worked part-time, fired her. Someone had sent them the evidence of her fake pregnancy and the harassment campaign, and they determined she was a liability. Patricia's church group, where she'd been a longtime member, asked her to step down from her volunteer position after several members expressed discomfort with her behavior. The consequences were cascading faster than I'd anticipated. And I felt nothing. No guilt, no second thoughts, just a cold certainty that this was exactly what they deserved. Thursday afternoon, I received a certified letter at home. Inside was a handwritten note from Patricia. 2 pages of cramped, desperate writing. Rebecca, please, you've made your point. Everyone knows what happened now. You've destroyed Jennifer's job, my reputation, our standing in the community. Isn't that enough? Can't we find a way to move past this? Maya needs her grandmother. Jennifer needs her sister. We're family. We made mistakes, terrible mistakes. But we're still family. Please call me. Please, let's talk about fixing this. I read it twice, then filed it in my documentation folder. There was no apology in it, I noticed. No acknowledgement of the specific harms they'd caused. Just pleas about consequences and family obligation. That evening, David found me in Maya's room watching our daughter sleep. You okay? He asked quietly. I'm wondering if I went too far. He was silent for a moment. Do you remember the death threats? The messages saying you should die so Jennifer could have peace? Yes. Do you remember Maya's face when only 8 kids came to her party instead of 20? Yes. Do you remember Jennifer laughing on that recording about how easy it was to fool everyone with her fake pregnancy? Yes. Then you didn't go too far. He put his arm around me. You held them accountable. That's not the same as revenge, Rebecca. That's justice. Friday morning, Jennifer showed up at my workplace. Security called me before letting her into the building, and I told them to turn her away. She stood outside for 30 minutes, crying and holding a sign that said, "I'm sorry, please forgive me." Patients photographed her. Staff photographed her. By afternoon, those photos were online too, with captions about manipulation and fake apologies. Jennifer's performative contrition had backfired as spectacularly as everything else she'd tried. That evening, I received a call from an attorney representing Patricia and Jennifer. He was professional but clearly uncomfortable with his client's position. Miss Turner, my clients would like to propose a settlement. They'll agree to permanent no contact with you and your family. They'll issue public apologies, and they'll enter counseling. In exchange, you agree to remove your social media posts and make no further public statements about this matter. No, Miss Turner, no settlement, no removal of posts. The truth stays public. They made this a public matter when they distributed my phone number and destroyed my reputation. Now they live with public consequences. My clients are willing to pay. I don't want their money. I want them to face exactly what they created. Tell them the answer is no. And if they contact me again, directly or through third parties, I'm filing for restraining orders immediately. I hung up. Linda, who I'd conferenced in on the call, made an approving sound. That was perfect. You gave them nothing to work with legally. Their own attorney will probably advise them to back off completely. Saturday marked 2 weeks since Maya's birthday party. We held a small celebration, just our immediate household and David's sister's family. Maya, blissfully unaware of the adult drama that had exploded around her, was simply happy to have more cake and more presents. Watching her play with her cousins, I felt the last lingering doubts dissolve. I'd protected my daughter. I'd established boundaries that would keep her safe from my mother and sister's toxicity. I'd ensured that she'd grow up knowing her mother would fight for her, prioritize her, defend her against anyone who tried to treat her as disposable. That night, after Maya was asleep, I finally allowed myself to cry. Not for what I'd lost, my mother, my sister, the extended family members who'd chosen sides and disappeared, but for what had never really existed in the first place. The loving, supportive family I'd always wanted had been an illusion, a performance maintained only as long as I played my assigned role. Now the performance was over. The masks were off. And I was finally free. 3 weeks after Maya's birthday party, Patricia had a second heart episode. This one was stress-induced angina, not a full heart attack, but serious enough to require a hospital stay. Aunt Carol texted me the details with a note. I know you don't want contact, but thought you should know. She's asking for you. I didn't go. I sent flowers to her hospital room with a card that said, wishing you a full recovery, and nothing more. David asked if I felt guilty about not visiting. She weaponized her first heart attack to make me feel guilty, I said. She's in the hospital because she spent weeks orchestrating harassment, then faced public consequences. That's cause and effect, not my responsibility. The flowers I sent generated another round of family drama. Some relatives thought I was cold for not visiting. Others appreciated that I'd acknowledged her illness at all. I stayed out of those conversations entirely, focusing instead on the restraining order paperwork Linda had prepared. Given their attorney's settlement attempt and Patricia's repeated contact attempts, you have solid grounds, Linda explained. The restraining orders would prohibit any contact, including through third parties, social media mentions, or presence within 500 feet of your home and workplace. Do it! The restraining orders were filed and approved within a week. Jennifer was served at her new job, a fact I learned from Marcus, who'd maintained minimal surveillance to document compliance with the cease and desist. Patricia was served at home after her hospital discharge. Both of them violated the orders within 48 hours. Patricia called my workplace, claiming a family emergency. When my office manager explained I couldn't take the call due to a restraining order, Patricia became verbally abusive, threatening to report me to the dental board for elder abuse and neglect. My office manager hung up and documented everything. Jennifer showed up at Maya's daycare, claiming she was there to pick up her niece for a family emergency. The daycare staff, who'd been briefed on the situation and had copies of the restraining order, called the police immediately. Jennifer was arrested in the daycare parking lot, then released on bail 6 hours later with an additional charge of attempting to violate a custody arrangement. Linda moved quickly. They've handed us everything we need for contempt of court charges, both of them, within 48 hours of being served. The judge is going to take this very seriously. The contempt hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. In the interim, Patricia and Jennifer's attorney withdrew from their case. He later told Linda, off the record, that his clients had been impossible to represent, refusing all advice and insisting they had the right to contact me because family is family. They showed up to the contempt hearing representing themselves. The judge, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and no patience for nonsense, listened to their excuses with increasing incredulity. Patricia, Your Honor, she's my daughter. I have a right to speak to my own daughter. These restraining orders are excessive. Judge, Mrs. Turner, you orchestrated a harassment campaign that resulted in death threats against your daughter. You violated a court order within 48 hours of receiving it. You have no rights here beyond what this court grants you. Do you understand? Jennifer, I just wanted to see my niece. Maya needs to know her aunt. It's not fair to keep us apart over a misunderstanding. Judge, Ms. Hayes, you fabricated a pregnancy to manipulate your family, then participated in a coordinated effort to destroy your sister's reputation. You attempted to remove a child from daycare without authorization. These are not misunderstandings. These are serious violations of law and decency. The judge extended both restraining orders to 10 years. She added mandatory counseling as a condition of avoiding jail time for contempt, and she issued a stern warning. Any further violations would result in immediate incarceration. Walking out of the courtroom, I felt a weight lift that I hadn't fully realized I'd been carrying. 10 years. Maya would be 13 before these orders expired. She'd grow up safe from their manipulation, protected from their toxicity. By the time she was old enough to understand what had happened, she'd also be old enough to make her own choices about these relationships. That evening, David opened a bottle of champagne. To consequences, he toasted. To protecting our daughter, I corrected, clinking my glass against his. The next morning, I received an email from a publisher. They'd seen my viral post and wanted to know if I'd be interested in writing a book about family manipulation, boundaries, and standing up to toxic relatives. The advance they offered was substantial. I called Linda before responding. Is this legal? Can I write about this without violating some kind of family privacy? Everything you'd write about is already public record, either through your original post or the court proceedings. You'd need to be careful about how you present certain details, but yes, a book is completely legal and potentially very valuable, both financially and for other people dealing with similar situations. I thought about it for 3 days. Then I accepted the offer. If my family's dysfunction could help other people recognize and escape similar patterns, maybe some good could come from this nightmare. The book took 8 months to write. During that time, Patricia made 2 more attempts to contact me, both through intermediate relatives who didn't know about the restraining order. I documented each attempt and filed reports with the court. She was fined and given a final warning. The next violation would mean jail time. Jennifer seemed to disappear entirely. According to family gossip that occasionally reached me through David's sister, she'd moved to another state and was working at a different retail chain under a slightly modified name. The internet never forgets, and her fake pregnancy story followed her everywhere. I felt no sympathy. She'd built her reputation with lies and manipulation. Now she lived with the consequences of her own choices. My book, When Family is Toxic: Setting Boundaries and Finding Peace, was published 14 months after Maya's 3rd birthday party. It became a surprise bestseller, resonating with thousands of people who'd experienced similar family dynamics. The advance and royalties paid off our mortgage. More importantly, it opened conversations about family dysfunction that people had been too ashamed to have publicly. I did interviews on podcasts, morning shows, and parenting platforms. In every interview, I told the same story: how a birthday party became the catalyst for recognizing generational manipulation, how standing firm on boundaries led to freedom, how protecting my daughter taught me to protect myself. And in every interview, I was asked the same question: do you regret how public this became? Do you wish you'd handled it privately? My answer never changed. My mother and sister made this public when they distributed my phone number and destroyed my reputation. I simply told the truth publicly. I don't regret protecting my daughter. I don't regret exposing manipulation. I don't regret any of it. 2 years after the birthday party, Maya turned 5. We held another celebration, this time with 30 children, new friends she'd made in kindergarten, families we'd built relationships with who had no connection to my toxic past. The party was joyful, uncomplicated, exactly what a child's birthday should be. As I watched Maya blow out her candles, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about her, I thought about the family that should have been there, the grandmother who chose manipulation over love, the aunt who valued attention over integrity, the relatives who'd rather avoid conflict than stand up for truth. I didn't miss them. I didn't want them there. Maya's life was better, cleaner, safer, without their influence. That evening, after guests had left and Maya was asleep, David found me in our home office. You okay? Better than okay, I said honestly. I was just thinking about how different our lives would be if I'd canceled Maya's party that day. If I'd given in to Mom and Jennifer's demands, we'd probably be dealing with worse manipulation now. Exactly. They would have learned that threatening me works, that they could control my family through emotional blackmail. Maya would have grown up watching me sacrifice her needs for their wants. I closed my laptop, where I'd been reviewing final edits on my 2nd book. Instead, she's growing up watching me defend boundaries, prioritize her well-being, and refuse to accept toxic behavior. That's the legacy I want to give her. You're a good mom, Rebecca. I'm a mom who learned that protecting my child sometimes means cutting out people I loved. That's not easy, but it's right. 3 years after the birthday party incident, I received a letter, not from Patricia or Jennifer, but from a lawyer representing Patricia's estate. My mother had died of heart failure, alone in her home. The letter informed me that I'd been left nothing in her will, with a specific clause stating my daughter, Rebecca, forfeited her inheritance through her cruel treatment of family. I felt a complex swirl of emotions: grief for the mother I'd wished I had, relief that the potential for further manipulation was gone, and grim satisfaction that even in death, Patricia couldn't resist one final attempt at control. I didn't attend the funeral. David offered to go with me if I wanted, but I declined. She made her choices. I made mine. Showing up to her funeral would be performative at best, toxic for me at worst. I'm at peace with letting her go. Jennifer didn't contact me about Patricia's death. According to estate documents, she'd inherited everything: the house, savings, personal possessions. I wondered if she'd finally gotten what she'd always wanted, being the only daughter, the sole focus, the exclusive inheritor. I hoped it made her happy. I hoped it was worth what she'd sacrificed to get there. Maya asked me once, when she was 7, why she didn't have a grandmother like her friends did. I told her the truth, in age-appropriate language. Sometimes people and families don't treat each other well. Grandma made choices that weren't safe or kind, and I had to protect you from that. I know that's sad, but keeping you safe is always my most important job. Do you miss her? Maya asked. I miss who I wished she could be, I said honestly, but I don't miss who she actually was. Maya thought about this seriously. I'm glad you protect me, Mom, even when it's hard. Always, baby, always. Now, 5 years after that birthday party, I'm watching Maya turn 8. Our backyard is full of children, laughter, and celebration. No family drama, no manipulation, no boycotts. Just pure, uncomplicated joy. David slides his arm around my waist. You built this, he says quietly. This safe, happy life. You fought for it. He's right. I did fight for it. I fought against family expectations, against guilt, against people who insisted that blood ties justified any behavior. I fought using truth, boundaries, and the legal system. And I won. Not just for myself, but for Maya. She'll grow up knowing that love shouldn't require sacrificing your well-being, that family should build you up, not tear you down. That sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no and mean it. The scars from that fight are still there. Sometimes I wonder what relationships might have looked like if my mother and sister had been different people. But mostly, I'm grateful for the clarity that came from their worst behavior. They showed me exactly who they were, and I believed them. That belief saved us. It built us. And it gave my daughter a childhood free from the toxic patterns that had defined my own. As Maya blows out her candles, 8 bright flames reflecting in her happy eyes, I make my own silent wish that she'll always know her worth, always defend her boundaries, and always understand that protecting herself and her future family isn't selfish, it's essential. The party continues, joyful and drama-free, and I'm finally completely at peace with every choice I made to get here. Jennifer reached out one final time when Maya was 10, not directly. That would have violated the restraining order, but through a carefully crafted letter sent to my publisher, forwarded to my attorney, and eventually to me after legal review. The letter was 6 pages long, handwritten on expensive stationery. It detailed her therapy journey, her recognition of narcissistic patterns, her deep regret for mistakes made during a difficult period. She asked for nothing, she claimed. She just wanted me to know she'd changed. Linda called after I'd read it. What do you want to do? Nothing, I said immediately. Acknowledgement of wrongdoing after 8 years of therapy isn't the same as changed behavior. And I don't owe her the opportunity to prove she's different. You're sure? Completely. Jennifer had 1,000 chances to be a good aunt, a good sister, a good person. She chose otherwise every single time. Her epiphany after facing consequences doesn't obligate me to give her access to my life or my daughter. I filed the letter with all the other documentation, a final entry in the record of a relationship that had died years ago. Maya never knew about it. There was no reason to tell her. Jennifer was a ghost from my past, not a potential presence in her future. My second book, Raising Children Free from Toxic Family Patterns, had been even more successful than the first. I'd become an unexpected advocate for family boundary setting, speaking at conferences and leading workshops on recognizing and escaping dysfunction. The work was fulfilling in ways I'd never anticipated. Every person who shared their story of finally cutting off a toxic parent or sibling, every parent who thanked me for giving them permission to protect their children from harmful grandparents, validated the choice I'd made years ago. You gave me language for what was happening, one woman told me after a workshop. My mother-in-law was exactly like yours, expecting my kids' events to be rescheduled around her preferences. I always felt guilty for resenting it. Your book made me realize that wasn't guilt. It was anger at appropriate boundaries being violated. These conversations reminded me why I'd gone public in the first place, not for revenge, though the accountability had been satisfying, but to shine light on patterns that thrive in secrecy and shame. David and I celebrated our 15th wedding anniversary the year Maya turned 11. At dinner, he raised his glass. To the woman who taught me that loyalty to family doesn't mean tolerating abuse. To the man who stood by me when standing up meant standing alone, I responded. You were never alone, he corrected gently. You had me, Michelle, the friends who showed up for Maya. You built a new family from people who actually loved you. He was right. The family I'd created, through choice rather than blood, was infinitely stronger than the one I'd been born into. No manipulation, no conditional love, no sacrifice of children's well-being for adult egos. Maya thrived in this environment. She was confident, articulate, unafraid to state her needs or defend her boundaries. When a friend tried to manipulate her in 6th grade using guilt and social exclusion, Maya ended the friendship cleanly and moved on. That's not how real friends act, she told me matter-of-factly. Watching her navigate relationships with clear boundaries and strong self-worth, I felt the deepest satisfaction. The cycle was broken. The patterns that had defined generations of Turner women ended with me. Maya would never question whether her needs mattered. She'd never sacrifice her children for someone else's ego. She'd never accept toxicity wrapped in the language of family obligation. On what would have been Patricia's 75th birthday, David asked if I wanted to visit her grave. I declined. She's not there, I said. The mother I wanted never actually existed. I grieved for her years ago. Visiting a grave site wouldn't change anything. Instead, I spent the day at Maya's school, speaking to her class about standing up to bullying and recognizing manipulation. The kids listened with remarkable attention as I explained, in age-appropriate terms, how people sometimes try to control others through guilt. But what if it's family doing it? One boy asked. Don't you have to respect family no matter what? You respect yourself first, I told him. Family should make you feel safe and valued. If they don't, it's okay to protect yourself, even if that means distance. The teacher thanked me afterward. Several of these kids needed to hear that. They're dealing with complex family situations, and they feel guilty for being upset about it. Driving home, I thought about that guilt, how it had kept me compliant for decades, accepting unacceptable behavior because family was supposed to mean unconditional tolerance, how breaking free from that guilt had saved not just me, but Maya, and potentially her future children. At 15, Maya asked to read my first book. I hesitated initially, but her therapist, yes, I'd ensured she had access to counseling from age 8, recommended allowing it. She's mature enough to handle the information, and hearing it from you in your own words might actually be helpful. We read through it together, with me pausing frequently to answer questions and provide context. Maya was quiet for a long time after we finished. Grandma really tried to cancel my 3rd birthday party? She finally asked. She did, and when I refused, she organized a family boycott. That's so cruel. I was just a little kid. You were, and you deserved celebration, not being used as a pawn in adult manipulation. Maya thought about this. I'm glad I don't remember her. Is that bad? No, honey. It's honest. You don't owe memory or affection to someone who treated you as disposable. Did it hurt, cutting them off? Yes. Loving someone and accepting they're toxic enough to remove from your life, that's one of the hardest things I've ever done, but not as hard as watching them hurt you would have been. She hugged me then, fierce and tight. You're a really good mom. Those words, from my daughter who'd grown up safe and valued, meant more than any book success or speaking engagement ever could. Jennifer died in a car accident when Maya was 16. I learned about it from an estate attorney who tracked me down to inform me that I'd been named as next of kin, since Jennifer had no spouse or children. Did I want to handle burial arrangements? I declined and provided contact information for distant cousins who might care. I didn't attend the funeral. I felt no grief, no closure, just a distant sadness for a life wasted on manipulation and lies. Maya asked about it briefly. I know I should feel something, but I don't really. Is that okay? Completely okay. She was a stranger to you. You don't have to perform grief you don't feel. At 18, Maya left for college with a clear sense of self and strong boundaries firmly in place. She'd chosen a school across the country, excited for independence and new experiences. As David and I helped her move into her dorm, I felt overwhelming pride. I'm not worried about you, I told her as we said goodbye. You know who you are. You know what you deserve. You'll build the life you want. Because you showed me how, Maya replied. You taught me that protecting myself isn't selfish. That was the best gift you could have given me. Driving home from the airport, David reached for my hand. You did it. You broke the cycle and gave Maya a completely different life than you had. We did it, I corrected. I couldn't have done any of this without you supporting those boundaries. Do you ever regret it? The way it happened, how public it became, all of it? I thought about Maya's childhood, safe and drama-free, about the thousands of people who told me my story helped them, about the life I'd built on truth instead of dysfunction. Never, I said firmly. They chose to weaponize a 3-year-old's birthday. I chose to protect her. Every consequence they faced stemmed from their own actions. I just refused to pretend it was acceptable. Now, 20 years after that birthday party that changed everything, I'm watching Maya celebrate her daughter's 3rd birthday. My granddaughter, Emma, runs through the backyard with 15 other children, laughing and carefree. Maya throws parties without anxiety, without wondering if family will boycott, without calculating whose feelings need managing. She throws parties with pure joy. David appears beside me with 2 glasses of lemonade. Thinking about the past, thinking about how different this is, I say, watching Emma blow bubbles with her friends. Maya will never know what it's like to have family weaponized against her children. Emma will grow up with clear examples of healthy boundaries, the patterns broken. Because you had the courage to break it. Because I refused to sacrifice my daughter for people who saw her as disposable. As the party continues, Emma's laughter ringing through the afternoon air. I feel complete peace. My mother and sister died having never known this joy. This simple celebration, uncontaminated by manipulation. They chose their path. I chose mine, and mine led here. 3 generations gathered in love and safety, with boundaries that protect instead of constrain, with family defined by care instead of obligation. Patricia's final attempt to hurt me, that will clause saying I'd forfeited my inheritance through cruelty, sits framed in my office, not as a source of pain, but as a reminder. She tried to control me even in death, tried to shame me one final time. She failed. I built an inheritance far more valuable than money or houses. I gave my daughter and granddaughter freedom from the toxic patterns that had defined our family for generations. That legacy, the legacy of boundaries and self-worth and refusing to accept unacceptable behavior, that's what truly matters. Maya appears beside me, Emma balanced on her hip. Thanks for coming, Mom. Emma loves having Grandma and Grandpa here. We wouldn't miss it, I say, kissing Emma's sticky sweet cheek. Birthdays are for celebrating. As I watch my granddaughter play, I think about that moment 20 years ago in Target, standing in the baking aisle while my mother demanded I cancel Maya's party. That was the moment everything changed. That was when I finally chose my daughter over family obligation. It was the best decision I ever made, and every birthday celebration since, every joyful gathering unmarred by manipulation, proves it. The party ends with Emma surrounded by presents, exhausted and happy. As we clean up, Maya says quietly, I want Emma to know her grandmother loved her enough to protect her. That's the story I'll tell her someday about you. Not about the betrayal or the legal battles or the public exposure. About protection. About love fierce enough to stand against toxicity. About choosing children over appeasing destructive adults. That's all I ever wanted, I tell her. For you and Emma to know you're worth protecting. Always. 20 years ago, my family tried to teach Maya that her birthday, her joy, her very existence was negotiable for adult convenience. Instead, I taught her that she was precious, that her celebrations mattered, that no one had the right to demand her erasure. That lesson echoed through 2 decades, shaping Maya's choices, strengthening her boundaries, and now protecting Emma. 3 generations, each one freer than the last. My mother and sister spent their lives chasing validation through manipulation. They died having never found it. I spent my life building safety through boundaries, and I found everything they never could: genuine love, authentic relationships, and the peace that comes from refusing to sacrifice children for adult egos. As I drive home that evening, sunset painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, I think about consequences. My mother faced public humiliation and isolation. Jennifer lost jobs, relationships, any chance at the attention she'd craved. They both died estranged from the family they'd tried to control. Those were the consequences of their own choices. Not revenge I'd exacted, but natural results of toxicity exposed. My consequences were different. I gained clarity, built boundaries, wrote books that helped thousands, and most importantly, gave my daughter and granddaughter childhoods free from the manipulation that had defined mine. I chose protection over peacekeeping, truth over false harmony, my child's well-being over toxic family obligation. And I'd make the same choice every time, without hesitation, without regret, without apology, because some things are worth fighting for. And my daughter's birthday party, her childhood, her fundamental worth as a human being, those were always worth the fight. 20 years later, watching Emma celebrate her 3rd birthday with pure, uncomplicated joy, I know I won. Not against my mother and sister, but for my daughter and granddaughter. And that victory, built on boundaries and truth and fierce maternal love, is the only legacy that matters.